They were royals in love, but the palace said no. Some relationships were banned because of their partners being commoner. Others were rejected for being divorced, too controversial, or simply not royal enough. A few romances ended in heartbreak when palace officials stepped in, forcing lovers to disappear overnight. These weren't flings. They were serious relationships the royals wanted, but the crown refused. So which princes and princesses had their lovers banned by the palace? Here are 12 royals whose romances were forbidden from the very start. At number 12, we have Princess Irene of the Netherlands. In the early 1960s, Princess Irene of the Netherlands fell deeply in love with Prince Carlos Hugo of Bourbon-Parma, a Spaniard with ties to European nobility. Romance quickly collided with politics of their country. Irene, born into a Protestant monarchy, secretly converted to Catholicism, an act that shocked the Dutch public and unsettled her family. According to royal musings, under the Dutch constitution, every royal marriage required parliamentary approval, but when Irene asked for it, the government refused to even submit the bill. Feeling replaced and maybe behind doors, her family offered polite smiles in public, yet made no move to clear the path for her. With Carlos Hugo's formally being banned, both by the government and the palace, Irene faced an impossible choice. Her royal birthright or the man she loved. She chose love, despite being banned by the palace. In March 1964, she married Carlos in Rome, becoming the first Dutch princess to give up her claim to the throne for marriage. Though later forgiven, Irene's sacrifice revealed how religion and politics could dictate a royal heart. The ban here was official. The Refusal of Marriage Act meant Irene had to abandon her status. In later years, Irene's unification remained in effect, but she was eventually forgiven, and today she is still regarded affectionate. At number 11, we have Queen Consort Camilla of the United Kingdom. In the early 1970s, Camilla Shank, later Camilla Parker Bowles, captured the heart of Prince Charles. Yet, from the beginning, the palace considered her an unsuitable match. According to biography, she was not only a commoner, but a young woman with a past. She had previous lovers, and in the eyes of the royal establishment, that made her unfit to be the heir to the throne. Lord Mountbatten, Charles's mentor, was blunt. The family's priority was finding him a suitable bride, a standard Camilla could never meet. By 1973, Camilla had married Andrew Parker Bowles, while Charles was pushed towards Diana Spencer, a union that seemed perfect but soon unraveled. Even after Diana's tragic demise in 1997, the shadow over Camilla remained. Queen Elizabeth II herself reportedly was not happy, reflecting the depth of disapproval with the family. For years, Camilla was banned from official functions and quietly sidelined. Her relationship with Charles kept it in the shadows. Time changed everything. Scandals softened, public sentiment shifted, and eventually the Queen relented. In 2005, after decades of resentment, Charles finally married Camilla in a civil ceremony with his mother's blessing. Today, she is Queen Consort, but her long journey from rejection to acceptance remains one of the most dramatic stories of royal bans. Next, we have Count Christian Rosenborg. In the early 1970s, Christian, then Prince of Denmark, fell in love with Anne Dorte Maltorf Nielsen, a young Danish woman with no aristocratic lineage. To him, she was the perfect partner. But the Danish monarchy, she was unacceptable in their eyes. The rules were strict. Under Danish law and tradition, princes needed a monarch's formal consent to marry, or else they would lose their royal rank and place in the line of succession. Christian understood that his request would almost certainly be denied. Rather than risk humiliation or drag his love through endless debate, he chose a different path. In 1971, he married Anne Dorte quietly and directly, without even asking King Frederick IX approval. It was a bold defiance of protocol. The punishment was automatic and irreversible. Christian lost his title of Prince of Denmark and all succession rights. From that moment, he was styled as Count Christian of Rosenborg, a courtesy reserved for royals who married against the crown's wishes. Anne, once banned from royal approval, became Her Excellency Countess Anne Dorte of Rosenborg. She and Christian built happy, but neither she nor their children held any dynastic success or status within the house. Behind closed doors, relatives respected Christian's devotion, but officially, marriage stood as a clear act of disapproval from both the Danish monarchy and the government. The next bans weren't whispered scandals, they were public storms. One princess was forced out of the country, another lost her place in the line of succession, and one royal's marriage set off outrage in parliament. At number 9, we have Princess Christina of the Netherlands, the youngest daughter of Queen Juliana and Prince Bernhard. In the mid-1970s, Christina found herself in love with George Perez, Prince Guillermo, a Cuban-American commoner, and, of all things, for a Dutch princess, that combination was enough to trigger a constitutional crisis. Under the law at the time, members of the royal family who married Catholics without parliamentary consent would lose their place in the line of succession. When Christina announced her engagement in 1975, the palace and the government hesitated. According to Mental Floss, memories were still fresh of her sister, Princess Irene, who had shocked the country a decade earlier by converting to Catholicism and marrying without approval. Now, history seemed to be repeating itself. Public reaction was swift. A large part of the Dutch society expressed outrage, scandalization that yet another royal would marry outside both rank and faith. George was banned by the palace, but rather than abandon George, she relinquished her dynastic rights and royal status. That September, the couple married quietly in London, away from the political storm back home. Though Queen Juliana ultimately accepted her daughter's choice, the loss of Christina's rights was formalized, a clear act of official disapproval. The marriage marked one of the last great controversies over religion in the Dutch royal house. By choosing love over law, Princess Christina echoed her sister's defiance. We have Prince Amedeo of Belgium next, a royal whose wedding in 2014 stirred quite the controversy. That July, Amedeo married Elizabeth Maria Rosbach of von Wittgenstein, known as Lily, an accomplished Italian journalist and art expert. Though Lily belonged to the Italian nobility, she was not part of any regional dynasty, and that distinction mattered. Under Belgian law, any descendants of King Leopold I were required to obtain a reigning monarch's consent before marrying or risk losing their rights in the line of succession. Amedeo, however, never sought the approval from his uncle, King Philippe, at the time. When the couple wed in Rome, surrounded by family, including the king himself, there was one thing missing: the royal decree. That silence spoke volumes. Without official sanction, the marriage was considered disapproval by the dynastic level. Amedeo was automatically struck from the line of succession, and Elizabeth did not gain the style of Princess of Belgium by right of marriage, retaining instead her hereditary Australian and Hungarian titles. The Belgian press at the time noted the symbolism. Even though the family attended and celebrated the union, the monarchy had withheld its constitutional blessing. The result was a paradox, a joyous royal wedding that also served as a reminder of the rigid rules of binding in the crown. According to the Belgian press, the episode remains a striking example of how, in Belgium, love without permission could still carry the heavy weight of officially being banned. At number 7, we have King Harald of Norway. In the late 1950s, Crown Prince Harald fell deeply in love with Sonja Haraldsson, a young woman of Oslo who came from a middle-class family. She was intelligent, elegant, well-liked, but she was not of noble birth, and that's important. For Norwegian establishment, that alone made her unsuitable as a bride for a future king. What followed was nearly a decade of silence. While Harald and Sonja remained committed to one another, King Olaf V hesitated to give consent, mindful of the centuries-old expectations that a crown prince should marry someone of aristocratic background. According to Reuters, Harald finally confronted his father in the 1960s with an ultimatum: he would never marry anyone but Sonja, even if it meant leaving Norway without an heir. It was a moment that shook the monarchy itself, placing the future of the crown in jeopardy. Faced with his son's determination and the risk of dynastic crisis, King Olaf relented. Even then, the decision required not just a blessing, but the approval of the Norwegian government. She was officially banned by the palace. However, only after these consultations did the engagement become official, making headlines across Europe. On the 29th of August 1968, Sonja and Harald were finally married. Their union celebrated as a victory for love over protocol. The next three romances tested monarchies to their core. One prince even vowed he'd never marry anyone else if it even cost him the throne. Next, we have Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex. In 2016, Harry met Meghan Markle, an American actress best known for her role in Suits. Meghan was everything tradition did not expect of a royal bride. She was divorced, biracial, and from outside aristocrat circles. From the beginning, their relationship drew scrutiny. When the couple announced their engagement in 2017, the backlash was immediate. Tabloid headlines dissected Meghan's background, and commentators criticized her Hollywood career and past marriage. The pressure grew so intense that when Prince Harry broke this royal silence, issuing an unprecedented statement condemning the, quote, wave of abuse and harassment directed at Meghan. Still, within the palace and among courtiers, whispers of ban lingered. While Queen Elizabeth II and the senior royals gave their formal consent, the sense of resistance, shaped by centuries of tradition and fueled by relentless media coverage, remained palpable. Meghan herself was cast as an outsider, unofficially treated as unwelcome by parts of both the institution and the press. Despite the storm, Harry and Meghan married in a grand Windsor ceremony in 2018, a moment hailed as a symbol of change. Yet behind the pageantry, tensions did deepen. By 2020, overwhelmed by the stain of the constant criticism and the rigid expectations of royal life, the couple made their dramatic decision. They would step back from senior royal duties and chart their own path abroad. At number 5, we have Prince Ingolf, Denmark. Prince Ingolf of Denmark was born third in line to the throne, but he sacrificed his status to marry a commoner. In 1968, Ingolf secretly wed Inga Tern, a Danish schoolteacher. He did not obtain the required royal consent for the marriage, and King Frederick IX refused to legitimize the union. According to the Royal Watcher blog, Ingolf, as a result, forfeited his place in line of succession and renounced his princely title. Legally, he became Count Ingolf of Rosenborg, a minor title given to dynasties to marry without permission. This was an official act by the royal family. Refusing consent was effectively a ban on their marriage. Although Ingolf later carried out some of the royal duties, he was never recognized as a dynastic prince ever again. The public and the press in Denmark paid little attention at the time, but the event illustrates the strict rules of the Danish court. Prince's love match, marrying a commoner in defiance of royals and rules, cost him his title and succession rights. It set a precedent for choosing other Rosenborg counts. Any further marriage without consent would similarly mean losing their princely rank. His case is often cited in discussions of royal marriage laws, and it shows that even in modern constitutional monarchies, marrying outside approved circles can incur formal punishment. Next, we have Princess Astrid of Norway. Astrid, the eldest sister of Norway's Harald V, ran afoul of official standards when she wed. In 1961, she married Jonah Martin Ferner, a wealthy Norwegian businessman who had been divorced. The Norwegian Lutheran Church, which officiates royal weddings, objected to marrying a divorced groom. Reports say the church and even members of the parliament quote-unquote objected to Ferner's first marriage. According to royal musings, due to the controversy, Astrid and Ferner had a private wedding in a smaller church instead of Oslo's cathedral. Though King Olav V and Queen Martha eventually gave their blessing, the ceremony secrecy and the relocation underscored the royal family's unease. In essence, both Princess Astrid and her husband faced official bans via church authorities and palace for marrying a divorced commoner. This had a severe impact in their relationship with Jonah. In addition, King Olav is quoted as privately urging discretion. Marrying a divorcee, quote, might be a bit too much for the public to stomach, unquote. The lasting impact was modest. Astrid lost the chance to ascend as queen, but remained the respected royal. Her experience illustrates the limits imposed by tradition and church on royal marriages. Even a princess has to accommodate official objections in planning her wedding. It's been found that she thinks that she had been wrongly targeted for marrying her love. The next ban weren't just whispers, they were official. One princess lost her royal rights entirely, while another princess's name vanished from succession overnight. At number 3, we have Princess Mako of Japan. Princess Mako, daughter of Crown Prince Fumihito, announced her engagement to commoner Ki Kimura in 2017. The Imperial Household Agency, which administers Japan's royal family, publicly delayed and scrutinized the couple's wedding plans for 2 years. According to People.com, the IHA officially cited incomplete preparations, but outside observers pointed to concern over Kimura's family, finances, and Mako's reluctance to leave the throne. In late 2018, the IHA abruptly postponed the November wedding, prompting press speculation that the prince's family disapproved of Kimura's background. Ultimately, Mako and Kimura married October 2021 without imperial endorsement. Mako had to relinquish her royal status in order to wed a commoner. The delay and the lack of a formal blessing by the chrysanthemum throne functioned as a de facto ban. In public comments, the princess conveyed sadness over the postponement and later the acceptance that she must step down. The episode caused intense public debate in Japan about imperial marriage laws. It was unprecedented for a princess to announce an engagement, then have it forced outside of the palace. Many sympathized with Mako's plight, while traditionalists argued that the imperial family was being too lenient by allowing a commoner. Mako's case demonstrates how, even today, Japan's royal household can effectively ban a royal's chosen partner through bureaucratic means, leading to personal sacrifice and widespread media controversy. Next, we have Crown Prince of Norway. Crown Prince Haakon faced official opposition when he chose Mette-Marit to Jessamine Højby as a bride. She was banned by the royal family. According to Wikipedia, Mette-Marit is a 27-year-old single mother with a Czech youth, which made her utterly controversial as a figure in Norwegian media. Though no royal decree banned the relationship, King Harald was skeptical about a commoner and a single mother as a future queen. Haakon insisted he would marry Mette-Marit despite the backlash. In the years 2000-2001, the royal household publicly announced their engagement, and the government and royal officials privately gave conditional approval. The wedding, the 25th of August 2001, went forward with the king's blessing. Thus, like the others on the list, Haakon and Mette-Marit were formally banned, and they overcame the resistance. The episode left a mark on Norwegian society. It helped normalize royal marriages to commoners and even single parents. Polls shifted positively toward Mette-Marit in the run-up for the wedding. Haakon's determination essentially forced the family to accept this match. In the end, her background caused short-term uproar, but no lasting sanction. Today, the couple are popular monarchs, and their daughter enjoys public affection, and their story shows up in modern family grappling with old prejudices like single others in commoner status and ultimately reversing an initial official unease into acceptance. At number 1, we have Prince Andrew, Duke of York, United Kingdom. Prince Andrew, the second son of Queen Elizabeth II, courted American actress Koo Stark in 1981 and 1982. According to the Town & Country magazine, the match provoked intense media and court scrutiny at the time. Koo Stark had appeared in raunchy films, which made her, quote, not seen as an ideal woman for a prince to marry. British newspapers reported that the royal family heard and their family disapproval of her career and background, and ultimately Andrew ended the relationship under that pressure. Andrew never married Koo Stark, instead marrying Sarah Ferguson in 1986. The affair's end was attributed to media pressures and banned from royal circle. In public, you should know Andrew later downplayed the romance, but biographers note that it was one of the few serious courtships he had before marriage. The episode left Andrew unmarried for years thereafter, and it stands as a well-known example of a royal relationship nixed by royal family expectations. For the palace, appearances matter. At the time, the idea of a future princess or potential queen consort having starred in such styles of films was considered scandalous and incompatible with royal respectability. Senior courtiers reportedly advised the Queen and Prince Philip that Koo Stark's past made her, quote, unsuitable as a royal bride. This amounted to official and decisive ban. Andrew could continue the romance privately, but marriage was out of the question. With this, we end today's video. We'll be back with a new video shortly. Until then, happy watching and do subscribe to our channel if you still haven't.